Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 174. My goodness, I have been trying to record this all week. My dad has been tearing down the fence in the garden, the neighbour's shed. He has been drilling and screwing and sawing and banging. I just dropped the kids at school, came back and saw his car wasn't here and went, yes! I can get a podcast episode recorded at last. I've had a topic that I've been dying to talk about all week. I put something on Instagram, can't remember now. I think it was just a selfie of me actually and then a quote underneath it. But it was along the lines, in fact no, let's not do along the lines, let's just open Instagram. It was, ultimately, your problem with your weight is that you're at war with who you want to be and who you really are. And I have been thinking about this a lot this week. And yeah, I don't want to jump ahead. We've got a lot to cover in this one. So you have an internal battlefield, right? Yo-yo dieting isn't a war against food. Yo-yo dieting is the war that takes place inside your... And remember, yo-yo dieting is not your weight going up and down, right? Your weight's just what was the thing I said? A casualty of war. Your weight's just a casualty of the war. Your weight is just reacting to this internalized battle that goes on. So you have this perfect idea of the person that you want to be, the goal life that you have in mind, the weight that you are, the way that you look. Like most people have this idealized goal image of themselves. Sometimes it's quite realistic. Sometimes it might be unrealistic. But if you were to write down, and this is one of the exercises that we do inside the Monroe Method when we write, we picture what our goal life is going to look like so that we can remove weight loss as a goal and replace it with things far more valuable. But you have this goal version of you in mind who is at their goal weight, eats fruit and vegetables without having to force themselves, without having to think about it, takes themselves to bed at 9 or half 9 each night, gets 8 or 9 hours of sleep, spends more time reading instead of watching TV, spends more time pursuing hobbies and interests instead of just vegetating on the couch, spends an hour a day scrolling their phone instead of 3 or 4, drinks less alcohol, eats fewer takeaways, cooks more often. Like you have this idealized version, right? And of course that person looks great, feels great, has loads of confidence and weighs X stone. And that's the thing that you think, or that's the thing you think you want to work towards. Now, I'll explain why I say think. And then there is the real you, the you right now. The one who hits their snooze, and I'm just generalizing here, you'll be able to take something from some of it, who hits snooze multiple times before finally dragging themselves out of bed. The first thing they drink in the morning is coffee. The first thing they do is open their phone and start scrolling Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. Absolutely nothing was done the night before. Clothes have got to be ironed. Lunches have got to be packed for kids. By the time all that's done, there's no time for you. You just jump in the car and say you'll grab something on the way or just go out and get something at lunch. Then you go to work and you have cravings all day because you're not really eating properly. You're not having any balanced meals. Your blood sugar goes up and down all day. Every time it comes down, you need sugar. So you go to vending machines and go to shops and you're always snacking and grazing. Then you eventually come home and you're starving, even though you've been eating all day. So you snack while you're making dinner. And by the time dinner comes, you're not that hungry for it, but you eat it anyway because you've made it. And it goes on, right? And then nighttime, you waste it in front of the TV or scrolling your phone. You're shocked when you look down to see 0000 on the clock and it's after midnight again. Better take yourself to bed before doing the same shit the next day. And then it's just that countdown to the weekend when you can let your hair down and everything just goes bananas. So this is the internalized war that many people are fighting, right? This idea of what they should be doing, of how they want to be doing things, of what life should be like and look like, versus who they really are and what they're actually doing. Now, I called this a war. And the thing is, it's not a fight that you're trying to win. This isn't a war where we're trying to have a winning side. It's not a war where we're trying to defeat the current us and turn into this goal version of us. I don't think that's the right way to approach it. What we are trying to do is trying to find peace on both sides. Here is the stark reality, right? And I know I say this all the time, but I have worked with countless people, okay? Very few people make it all the way to the goal weight that they had in mind and stay there. Very few people. Now, the main reason for that is their goal. So think of it this way, right? Your weight is where it is right now because of the way that you live, okay? Now, if the way that you choose to live right now is leading you to be 13, 14, 15, whatever, stone, then, but you also don't want to be whatever weight you are, then the understanding should be that, okay, I need to start making changes to the way that I live so that I am no longer this weight. So let's stick with 15 stone. So you are 15 stone and you have numerous unhelpful habits that involve you cycling calories through your body and your weight having to get bigger to match them. And so you start dieting. And while you're dieting, you're also making some changes to your lifestyle. And let's say you make it to 14 stone. So you've lost a stone, you've made some changes, your weight's not going any farther, and you realize that you're going to have to make some more changes. So you make some more changes. You start eating out even less. You start changing your portion sizes. You cut down your takeaways to once a week instead of twice a week. You stop drinking during the week and you only save it for the weekends, or you stop drinking in the house, you only drink when you're going out. So you keep making all these changes and you've managed to get to 11 stone. So you've lost 4 stone. That's a life-changing weight loss. But you don't want to be 11 stone. You want it to be 9 stone. But now we're at a point where you're going to have to start giving up more and more. So what I find a lot of the time, it's not that people need to change their target. Like, I don't like that Slimming World mentality, that Slimming World terminology. It's not about changing your target. It's understanding that you would not enjoy living the life associated with the weight that you want to be. Like, I've maybe told this before, you know, for me to get visible abs, remember when this was, I've mentioned it at some point, but there was a time when that was important to me, right? Having visible abs. Maybe 2016, 2017, I had to go down to like 10 and a half, 10 and 3/4 of a stone, because I'm someone who has to go down to a very low weight for abs to be properly revealed. Now, I did that. I got there, 10 and a half stone, and I didn't like it. It was a horrible place to live. I had to think about my eating far too much. You know, for me to maintain that level of weight, I had to eat less than usual, and it required too much thought, too much effort. I didn't have any peace. I wasn't relaxed around food. I wasn't getting that, losing weight and then maintaining it effortlessly feeling. So then that's when you have to start, again, coming back to the war thing, this is when you have to start making peace with yourself and say, do you know what? Is it really so important what's more important? Having abs that you maybe take your top off 3 or 4 times a year and you get to feel confident and great about it? Or do you want to have peace with food all the time? Do you want your eating to require less effort? So of course we went with option 2. So now my weight sits closer to 11 and a half stone. I do not put any effort into my eating. It's just something that happens now. So I made peace with the fact that for me to get to where I thought I wanted to be, I was going to have to give up too much. And life was going to be too boring and too miserable. And this applies to you as well, because you have an idea in mind of a number you would like to be, of a way you'd like to look, or a dress size, or a waist size, or whatever it is, whatever your own goals are for your own body. It's your choice. But I think it's important to understand that as you get closer to that, you're going to, when you're on a proper weight loss journey, when you're not dieting, right? When you're actually on a weight loss journey and you're discovering things about yourself along the way, you're understanding where the weights came from, the way that you think, the way that you act, the way that you behave, the things that you're likely to do, the certain situations that you set up at home by not being prepared or not doing a shop or having a drink or whatever it is. As you learn more about these and understand them and resolve them, you will get to a point where you're like, well, I don't really want to give anything else up. I like going out for coffee and cake every Saturday with my friend or my daughter or whatever it is. I like having a bottle of wine and a takeaway in the house every Saturday night. And I know that means that I have a big fry up on a Sunday and I maybe get a Chinese at night, but I quite like doing that. And, I don't sit there and say to somebody, well, you're going to have to stop doing that if you ever want to get to whatever stone. You just have an open and honest conversation and say, well, look, that's fine. If that's how you want to live and that's the things that you want to keep a hold of, that's fine. What we have to do is we have to make peace with the fact that, as well as all the other eating that you're doing during the week and all the other things that you're doing, because it's not just these things, but these are the big things that are happening on a weekly basis. I know that if we cut these things down to once a month, then you would lose more weight. Or if we cut it down to once every second weekend, you would lose more weight. But again, it comes down to, well, is that actually what you want to do? So there does come a point where you have to stop trying to chase the number. And this is why I talk about this goal life when people come to work with me, like on day 2 or 3, I think it is. We paint a very vivid picture of, like, what is weight loss going to give you? Let's fast forward in time. You are 9 stone. What is your life like? What's easier? What's not happening anymore? What is happening now? What do you not feel anymore? What do you feel now? What size of clothes are you wearing? How confident do you feel? What do you feel like when you go clothes shopping, when you're trying things on, when you look in the mirror? All this kind of stuff. And the whole idea behind that is for me to draw people's attention away from this awful goal of weight loss and into the much better goal of goal life. And then it's like, rather than I'm doing this stuff to lose weight, it's I'm losing weight to get this stuff. The goal becomes the facilitator. The goal becomes the transportation method to get you to where you want to be, rather than I'm following this diet to lose weight. It's I am losing, we're bypassing a step. I am going through a weight loss journey because I want the thing that lies on the other side of it. So, back to the war thing. This is what yo-yo dieting is. This all or nothing mentality, this black and white thinking, this on plan, off plan. It is a constant struggle between the way that you want to eat, the person that you want to be, the things that you want to do, and then the person you think you should be, or the person you think you want to be. And people waste years of their life trying to chase this person that they think they want to be, but they don't really be. But then there's also a part to that where people also have these beliefs that they are going to have to give everything up. So like you love the idea of losing weight and all the rest of it, but then you go to Slimming World, or you go to Weight Watchers, or you start drinking shakes, or you start taking injections, or you start fasting, or you cut all the carbs and joy out of your life, and then it's a case of, well, actually, this is horrible. Do I really want to get to that weight when I have to do this? And will I have to do this forever? So the way that you go about it, I think, also has an impact on it. Obviously, the way that I do things, we don't do it like that. It's very much it's more of a personal journey between two people, because I'm actually coaching someone rather than it just, standing in a group of people every week and stepping on a set of scales and getting general advice. You can actually, I'm working with someone who's lost 6 stone so far, She still has a few to go. And we're working, we've got so far, and with her, we're getting to that point where we start having this conversation. Well, okay, you've lost 6 stone so far. You've gone through a life-changing loss. You were almost 20 stone. It's 18 months later. You're a completely different person. I know you still want to lose another whatever, but do you really want to? Do you still want to keep doing more? Do you still want to keep scaling your life back? Like we've got rid of all the we've improved all the really unhelpful habits where massive amounts of calories were coming in, but there are still little bits here and there that we are working on. We're working on our next roadblock just now, which is that she eats her meals in front of the TV on her lap. Which is always going to be associated with higher levels of body weight, because 90% of your attention is on the TV, 10% of your attention is on the food. When you don't give food your full attention, you do not get full satisfaction from it. This is why people will often sit there, eat their dinner in front of the TV, look down at their plate, be surprised that it's all gone, and feel like they could eat it again. Or feel like they then need to go to the kitchen and get something else, or they think they're still hungry, and they're not. They've just eaten a whole dinner. It's just they've not had the satisfaction from it because they were oblivious to the fact that they were eating. So that's the next thing we're working on, moving from laps in the living room to sitting at a table and actually engaging with the food. And this might help her lose another stone and a half, and then we'll have another conversation and say, right, what's the next thing we need to work on? But we might get to, she might get all the way to what she had in mind originally. She might not. There's no right or wrong way to do this, by the way. It's entirely up to the person. It's a very personal thing. It's not just a case of, if you can't get to that number, then you're a failure. You get to a point where it's like, okay, am I really willing to keep stripping stuff back? Do I really want to cut my alcohol back any farther? Do I really want to eat out less? Do I really want to have to cook more? If the answer is yes, great. You do more of those things, you lose more weight, you then go on, if these things become regular, then you go on and live at that. Do you know, if you think of it this way, right? Imagine someone, let's start from baseline. Imagine someone is a perfectly healthy weight. They do a weekly shop, they plan their meals, they have a breakfast, lunch and dinner, it's super well balanced, they have a couple of snacks in between, and that's it, right? That person is, let's say, 9 stone, okay? Which is a perfectly healthy level, healthy weight for their height and BMI and all the rest of it. And that's it, right? But then that person introduces a weekly takeaway. Now, the weekly takeaway, if they've got good habits around their eating, they're not someone who over-orders, they're not someone who feels the need to eat the entire thing because they paid for it, or they don't keep it for leftovers for breakfast, they just eat it, stop when they're full, and that's it. That'll do nothing to their weight. But then let's say they do that twice a week. Now it might start having an impact. Now let's say they start having a bottle of wine every Friday night. Their weight's going to creep up again. Now they start having 2 biscuits with every cup of tea that they make, and they have 3 or 4 cups of tea a day. That's going to put their weight up more. And now every Saturday they go out to Costa and meet their friend for cake, and they sit and have 2 or 3 lattes. Their weight's going to go up again, because everything that we do that involves cycling calories through our body that becomes an addition to everything else makes your weight go up. You cannot use your body as a calorie cycling factory for enjoyment, but also not gain weight as a result of it. It's not a negative thing. It's just how it goes. And then people, it depends what your outlook on life is and what your views on life are. Like if you're someone who thinks, well, I should be able to drink 2 bottles of wine a week, and I should be able to eat 2 or 3 takeaways a week, and I should be able to go out and do this and meet friends and go out for dinner, and that's fine. You can do those things, but you also have to understand that all these extra things that you do will add extra weight to your body because you're consuming lots of extra calories. And again, it just entirely comes down to the person. Like, what is important to that person? Do they not care about not care about their weight? Does their weight not bother them? And the way that they choose to live their life is more important to them. Again, I mean, this is another part of this where there are some people dieting who might just need to accept that that's the weight that they're always going to be because they're not willing to make any changes to their life. You know, they have an outlook on life where it's like, well, I've only got one life and I'm going to live it, and my version of living means eating and drinking a lot. You know, there are some people dieting that aren't going to lose any weight, shouldn't lose any weight, and their weight's exactly where it's supposed to be and will always be because they're not willing to make those changes. Do you know, I have worked with, I'm going to say 3 people over the years who did, 2 of them have come straight to mind, okay? There was a person who wanted to put absolutely zero effort into their diet. She kept eating Bombay bad boy pot noodles. It was all she wanted to eat because they were easy and they were cheap and she enjoyed them, and it was zero thought and zero effort. But she also wanted to be much lighter. And the problem was, well, these pot noodles, like, she enjoyed them, that's fine. And she was having them a couple of times a day, but then she was also doing lots of eating on top because they weren't particularly filling. You know, there was no protein involved and no fibre involved. She was hungry an hour after them. And she was not willing to make any changes. You know, and then that's just one of those moments where I have to say, well, look, I can't help you. I could give you a calorie number and ask you to try and stick to it, but that's not really my shtick. I'm here to help people improve their health. I'm not going to help someone continue to impair their health, but also try and help them get to a lighter weight. There's plenty of people out there, I'm sure, that will do that. I'm just not one of them. And the other person was someone who was very childlike in their attitude towards making changes to their eating. You know, I think we got to the end of like week 3, and it's like, you know, getting to the end of the check-in. What's the biggest obstacles and things? I don't have any calories left for pudding. I have pudding after every meal, and I've had to not have it a few times because I can't fit it into my calories. You know, and then we had a chat about this, and she was like, no, I have always had pudding after every meal. And I asked what pudding meant, like, and, you know, to get her to explain, because it made sense to her, because that's how she's been brought up and lived. And then she explained, well, after breakfast, I always have like a chocolate croissant or some kind of pastry after breakfast, on top of breakfast. After lunch, I always have, I can't remember, like a slice of cake or biscuits or sweets or something. And then after dinner, we always have some kind of dessert. And I was like, yeah, you're eating 6 courses a day. You're turning 3 meals into 2-course meals. This is why you're 15 stone. Obviously, I didn't say it as plainly as that. I'm just for the sake of getting the point across on a podcast. But, you know, I explained gently, you know, your weight is where it is because of the way that you eat. You can't keep doing all of that. This isn't new information to you guys, because you hear me talking about this all the time, right? There is no version of reality where you get to keep doing all the things that you're doing, but somehow that just leads to a lighter body. Like, your weight is where it is because of the way that you do things. There's no magic secret. There's no magic combination of foods or rules or whatever that lets you keep doing everything you're doing, but also be 3 stone lighter or 4 stone lighter. So yeah, it was very challenging having a conversation with that person, explaining, look, you know, part of the reason your weight is where it is because you have dessert after every meal. Well, we'll just have to make changes elsewhere then, because that's not something I'm willing to give up. And I was like, yeah, I can't help. It's not always sunshine and rainbows inside the Monroe method. People are just people. Some people are ready to change. Some people aren't. Some people want to, you know, some people. It's funny because I've worked with people back in 2018, 2019 who joined and did well for a while, then disappeared. And then I've been doing this long enough now for them to come back 5 years later and say, look, I wasn't ready to stop yo-yo dieting yet. I was just trying to get a quick fix. I just wanted to lose weight. And then, you know, they're older and wiser, or they've got kids now, or they're starting to go through menopause, or they've been through 4 or 5 different diets. And then they've got to that point where they were ready to work with me and they're like, yeah, I get it now. I understand what you meant back then. So yeah, we'll round that one off there. This is not about fighting a war inside. That's the problem, that you keep fighting this war. This is where all this stuff comes from. This on plan, off plan stuff. On plan is when you think you're doing things that are aligned with the version of you want to be, with the weight you want to be. Off plan is what you're doing when you're being you. Always remember, you are never doing anything that you don't want to do. You are never eating anything that you don't want to eat. You're never making choices that you don't want to make. You're doing it all for a reason. And that's not about finger pointing or blame or anything like that. It's about taking responsibility, taking ownership of something, because only when you take ownership of it, you can say, right, let's get to the bottom of why I keep doing this thing. That's when the real work starts and the real progress happens. Anyway, until next time.